Somewhere on CNN, Andrew Yang is having a good day. Now, because of the economic downturn related to places of employment shutting down or suspending operations temporarily for the safety of the community, for the people's health and safety, members of both the Democratic and Republican parties are looking at temporary relief, which could come in the form, possibly, of a universal basic income. So now, right now, the markets are doing terribly. People are asked to limit their activity, to not gather in large crowds, in order to prevent others from getting sick or transmitting any sort of disease. Now, the Fed, on the government side, uh, look, the Federal Reserve is a private bank, right, that loans money to the government. And the Federal Reserve also has monetary policy. And what they've done in this crisis is they've slashed rates to basically zero or near zero, like 0.25% or something. They've also bought $700 billion in bonds, injected cash into the banks for liquidity purposes. But so far, there's not been any immediate relief for the workers put in this situation. And it's really had barely an effect in the markets, mainly because consumers are not consuming or they're panic consuming. And so that's not good for the long term health of the economy or even the short term health, right? So now, because of this, Politico is reporting that Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin is now looking at cutting some checks for Americans. So now Mnuchin, speaking at a White House press conference, did not say how much money Americans could potentially expect to receive, but indicated that the administration could seek to exclude those who are well off, meaning over people making over $1 million, right? Is generally the consensus so far in the White House. Oh, we don't want millionaires to get this. Wow. Wow, that's actually okay. Sure. But he said this quote, "We are looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. And what we have heard from hardworking Americans, many companies have now shut down, whether it's bars or restaurants. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now in the next 2 weeks." Interesting. So now, look, what the president originally said he wants to do is, well, we want to give you tax cuts. Right. Okay. But that's not going to work. Tax cuts are a terrible idea, especially if you're going to give a payroll tax cut, which hurts Social Security and doesn't really involve any sort of monetary benefit to families right now that aren't working. And so that's a disastrous idea. And so right now, Mnuchin's like, no, we're gonna. I convinced the president. He wanted that, but now he also agrees that maybe it'd be good to give people money so they can immediately spend it, put it back in the economy, right? So now he mentioned 2 weeks, right? You know what happens in 2 weeks? Rent's due. So that's important. And so yes, they want to rush something out. Now, as of right now, unfortunately, there is no effort to suspend rents, no plans to suspend mortgage payments or utility payments or anything like that. I think to be effective, you would have to have a moratorium on a lot of those bills. Now, some companies have taken the step of suspending evictions for the duration, for the short time. Oh, good. Oh, how magnanimous of you. Yeah, you're gonna stop kicking people out of their home just until this is over, and then we're gonna boot you out of your home. Wow. Bold. Really bold. But look, none of that helps people who are behind right now. Suspending evictions, right? Again, if you do a moratorium for the short term on that and combine that with a cash infusion, well, then that would be helpful. Much more helpful than what we're doing right now. So now, I noticed something interesting, right? So right now there are two different plans that have come out. So first it comes from Senator Mitt Romney, right? Now Senator Mitt Romney, yes, that Mitt Romney, who once called 47% of Americans takers and victims, right? He has called for a $1,000 payment to one person immediately. Now that is a one-time payment, right? So we're just going to give everybody $1,000 and hope that it helps. Oh boy. Now, Romney, again, he's a conservative Republican. He's very conservative, right? Tom Cotton has also called for something similar, a cash payment of around $1,000, although he's not final on the numbers, right? This is, I don't know, we could give every adult $1,000 and then hope that helps the market. Okay. Well, again, very conservative Republicans, generally they hate giving anybody money except for the banks or corporations. But in this case, they know, they can see it's an emergency. People need money. And the economy, as it is, cannot sustain itself without increased consumer spending. So now there's the Republican position, right, that I've seen. Now, the Democrats also should have a position, right? And the general consensus goes that, well, obviously the Democrats are the far left party, right? And so they should have some radical solution. And then we have to go and get to the middle, right? All right, well, one plan to emerge from the Democratic Party side is this. Former presidential candidate Kamala Harris announced that she would be introducing the LIFT Act. Now, she had already introduced the LIFT Act before. So now she goes back to it and says, well, the LIFT Act that I introduced in Congress, well, this would do a lot, right? So now what would happen? What is the LIFT Act? Well, now let me explain, right? So now, again, it's called the Lift the Middle Class Act. And what it would do is it would give every American family or single person depending if you're a family of four, a $6,000 tax credit. $3,000 if you're single. Wait, what? Now, that's, look, here are more of the details, right? Now, the credit, again, would be about $3,000 or $3,000 for a single person. It's a refundable tax credit available to low and middle income taxpayers. The credit amount would be adjusted each year for change CPI. It would be a lot like the earned income tax credit. It would be defined as wages, not self-employment income or Pell Grants. Dependent taxpayers over the age of 15 who file tax returns would be eligible, and taxpayers can choose whether to receive the benefit of the tax credit all at once during tax filing season or in equal monthly payments throughout the year, which could be anywhere from or up to $500 per month. Wow. How is it that Kamala Harris just got outflanked by Mitt Romney and Tom Cotton? Again, look, to be fair, right? This is per month, right? This tax credit, you could get a monthly payment of $250 to $500. And so if this crisis lasts into April, possibly May, even June, some estimates even have August, right? This financial crisis, well, then that could actually end up being much more than Mitt Romney's $1,000. But here's the issue, right? As far as proposals go, these are both incredibly milquetoast, right? This tax credit it really shows a weakness and fecklessness of the Democratic Party. I mean, not only that, but their actions so far on healthcare, not having universal health coverage through a Medicare for All system, paid leave, the recent paid leave bill, leaving out about 80% of workers and carving out massive holes for corporations. And then, of course, now your UBI, right? Now, the Republicans, as monstrous as they are, at least they do get it somewhat. And here's the thing. They can be effective when they want to be. It's just that normally they just want to be effective for the rich. It was during the Bush administration, if you remember, when Americans got an extra check, a stimulus package, right? It was on $300 myself. I remember I got that. I was a single person back then. And I think it was $500 or $600 for family, right? And so you just get a check from the government, stimulating package, right? Now, that was, again, I think that was fairly popular. I mean, who doesn't like getting money in the mail, right? As far as being super effective, Well, it was not very effective because there wasn't a lot of money. Let's be honest with you. But people did pay some bills with that and do a little bit of consumer spending. Far more effective than giving tax cuts to the corporations, the top 1%. All right. So now, but when Democrats they try to be effective, well, they fail completely. Again, Pelosi's paid leave bill was disaster, right? Numerous carve-outs. Biden's healthcare plan leaves 10 million Americans without health insurance, and plus you still have copays and deductibles. I mean, these half measures, this is why people lose. When Republicans are able to outflank you from the left and in your own positions, well, I mean, it undermines your message and makes you incredibly weak and also makes you look unfit to lead. Any voter out there who's looking for some sort of relief, who is afraid since they've lost their job, they're going to think, well, based on this, a low information understanding, like you see, oh, they're going to give me 10,000 or they're going to give me $1,000 a month, the Republicans, which it's only 1 month, versus Kamala Harris giving me $500. Well, obviously, I'm going to go with the Republicans because it seems like they care a little bit more. I guess I'll vote for them. And if you don't have proper information out there, well, you're going to see that, you're just going to see the dollar amounts and be like, well, obviously, I'm going to go with that guy because he actually is going to give me more money right now. Elections, of course, it's all about the messaging. And when it comes to the messaging, when it comes to politics, Democrats are terrible. They cannot play politics. It seems like when they're the strongest, they're always the strongest against progressives in fighting progressive policy and not against the Republicans. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.